Welcome! We're back! Theme Park Universe episode 6 with the Vash guy and the Ranking the Mouse. He's gonna rank our faces. He's gonna rank everything. Ranking the Mouse, where can we find you, Mr. Shaun?
Oh, how's it going, everybody? Ethan, the best part about you is your amazing intros. Just unbeatable intros. Right? Absolutely. How's it going, everybody? It's good to see you guys. You guys can find me on Twitter at Ranking the Mouse, or X, I guess. I don't know. I'm still going with Twitter. That is where you can find me the most. Also on Instagram and YouTube with the same name, but Twitter is where the most hottest of takes will be found.
The host of the most, Vash guy. Where can people find you?
Well, the best place to find me is going to be on X, Twitter. I don't know what we're talking. I don't know what we're calling it these days, but at Vash Guy right there, just type it in and it should pop up for all the robust discussion. Some people will remember that from the old show there. And if you want to see some shorter form content, you can find me at That Park Place, where we're talking about all things theme parks. On the live show, we talk about entertainment and gaming sometimes. So definitely check that out if you are interested. And for you, Wizard, well, we just have to play it.
We got you. We got you.
Good stuff there.
We did it.
Hype level activated.
Absolutely, 100%.
To the max. That's right. We're turned up to the max right now. And guess what? It's Friday. And we had some breaking news. That's right. Break it. Do you have a breaking thing, Dr. Dre?
Probably not. No.
Oh, okay.
I have this. The record just broke. That's about close you're gonna get there.
But we have a Six Flags over Knott's Berry Farm. That's right. Cedar
I'm leaving the call, Ethan. After that, I'm exiting the call.
He's leaving. We kicked him out. No, I'm dragging you all the way from Seattle and bringing you right back in because guess what? You have 42 parks to rank, Shaun. You have 42 parks to rank.
42 parks. Go ahead and share my screen, Wizard. We'll go ahead and tell the viewers at home what we're talking about here. We're reading this November 3rd, by the way, so by the time you actually hear this, there might have been some updates, but here's the gist of it. Cedar Fair and Six Flags to combine in merger of equals, creating a leading amusement park operator. This takes 20-some parks from Cedar Fair, 20-some parks from Six Flags, and merges those to create a portfolio worth 42 iconic parks, 9 resort properties across 17 states, Canada, and Mexico. This would, in the regional theme park business, this is going to be the largest player in the game right here. And there is some speculation as to why this has actually happened. We will definitely get into that for sure. But just to finish this off here, Cedar Fair and Six Flags Entertainment Corporation today announced that they have entered into a definitive merger agreement to combine in a merger of equals transaction. The combined company, with a pro forma enterprise value of approximately $8 billion based on both companies' debt and equity values as of October 31st, 2023, will be a leading amusement park operator in the highly competitive leisure space with an expanded and diversified footprint, a more robust operating model, and strong revenue and cash flow generational profile. Ranking. Come on. This is a big deal right here. What were your first initial thoughts? What are you thinking now? Is there anything that we can answer for our folks at home?
Yeah, this is a huge deal. And I know that there's been rumors about this for a while. There's been rumors about maybe SeaWorld might get involved with one of these companies.
Right.
So I won't say it's like insanely surprising, but I got to say, when I got that news break, it still came out of left field for me. I mean, this is just crazy. I didn't even know if this would, get past the FTC. This is just a huge deal.
Technically, it hasn't yet. but
right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the article you mentioned it, but this is supposed to close in, they say, first half of 2024. So,
right.
This is still some months away at least from closing. But yeah, outside of it, going official or it passing, it seems like everything else is official. And I mean, this is crazy news. This is insane. I mean, this is obviously the biggest, most massive, amusement park company in America. I mean, probably the world. You have Merlin Entertainment, which is pretty massive once you get into the Europe parks, a couple parks here in the States too. But outside of, Merlin and obviously Disney, I mean, this is this is a massive company now in terms of real estate.
This is huge. Like we said before, 42 theme parks right here. They actually had an investors presentation breaking all this down, which I'll go ahead and share here. If we scroll down,
is the map there? Because the map is pretty funny.
The map is we'll get to the map here for sure. 15
because they show Knott's Berry Farm in Santa Monica, and I thought that was hilarious.
yeah. 15 parks from Cedar Fair, 27 parks from Six Flags, combining to 42 parks here. 48 million people annually attend these parks right here. You can see the revenue, $3.4 billion. It's interesting, $8 billion. It's like, wow. I mean, Disney spends $6 billion a year on their parks, so you can see the scale difference here. But here's the map here.
I'm assuming, Dre, in their 42 park number, they're not talking about water parks, right? Because I know they're not pulling a Universal here and counting their water parks as theme parks, right?
No, I think they're counting their water parks.
They definitely are, because those two blue dots, one of them is trying to figure it out. One's Knott's and one's not Soak City.
Right.
And one's
okay, so they are including the water parks in the 42.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. We're getting into the Universal territory there. We're getting a little bit. Like Soak City and a couple of these other water parks that are attached to the theme parks. That's forcing it a little bit, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt here.
Hey, they do charge separate admission, so they consider them separate products. It's interesting because Six Flags had an aggressive strategy back in the 20-teens that included water parks, and it's like, okay, if we can get people to like up their season pass or annual pass or whatever they want to call it, right, to include water parks, we can get that much more money out of them up front and stuff like that. And you know, they've had a very interesting history, which is something I want to get into here. The question now is, like, you know, who really, like, which mindset or philosophy kind of wins out here, because we know that Cedar Fair does things a little bit different than Six Flags has done, especially in the last 5 years, right? Six Flags went on that little international kick for a while there. That crashed and burned in front of them. Then you have Salim Basul coming in, looking to upend their entire business model. Oh, we're going to premium, you know, we're going to have the strategy of premiumization for our parks, right? We're going to do the Chapek thing, and we're going to go ahead and charge more. We're going to take off perks and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, ooh, that didn't go very well. Not only did attendance drop, which is what they were expecting, but their per caps also dropped as well. And they've had a reverse course on that. So now it's like, who's really going to win in the battle of these differing philosophies? Now we know from Axios and Wall Street Journal that Robert Zimmerman will be the new CEO, which was the prior CEO of Cedar Fair, but that Salim Basul is sticking around and to become an executive chairman in this new role. And they're going to have a new board made up of 12 people, 6 from each of the prior companies. What are we thinking about this in terms of you know, which philosophy will win out? I mean, they're saying that 51% of unit holders will be Cedar Fair, so that implies that they'll have the ownership stake going forward, but they are going into the Six Flags name.
Yeah, it is really interesting, because obviously, you know, I'm happy that the Cedar Fair CEO is taking over, but you kind of get into the question of how much say does a CEO really have? Because Six Flags has been through so many CEOs and so much change in their front office, but they've kind of had a similar, I guess, mindset, if you will, for a long time. So, and Dre, you kind of got into this a while earlier about Six Flags back in the day and their history, and I think their name is so recognizable because, I mean, Six Flags has had their name on more parks than they currently do now. Like their name is off of more parks that it used to be on than it is now. I mean, there's probably 30, 40 parks that used to be branded Six Flags that they either sold off or ended their partnership with. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's something like 35 or 40 states in America have had at one point a Six Flags park, and at least half of those don't anymore.
They also
used to have well known.
They used to have a great international presence as well. It's interesting because I love how you bring that up, Shaun, because in 2015, they said this to investors when looking to sell them on the idea of international licensing. They said, we did a study a couple years ago that looked at our brand awareness outside of the United States. Six Flags brand recognition was very, very high, even higher than Universal Studios and Disneyland. Wow. People look at us and say that we at Six Flags have have the success and expertise to open amusement parks. So, at least according to their internal information, it would suggest that Six Flags is the more recognizable brand, and that's why they're going with it. You're not, if they do like Cedar Fair, that gets into like, is it Cedar Fair over Georgia now? Like that gets a little tough, right?
Yeah.
So I can understand why they're going with the Six Flags name, but us coaster enthusiasts, us theme park guys, don't have it necessarily associated Six Flags with quality in the same way that we do Cedar Fair. That's the issue here.
Correct. Yeah, I think it really gets into what your fandom is, because if you're a coaster enthusiast, I mean, obviously Cedar Fair is up there too, but Six Flags, I mean, that is what Six Flags is, right? I mean, that's what they're notorious for. So if you're more of a theme park fan, like we are, like Wizard, Dre, me, they don't have the same, let's say, brand power that most coaster fans would say. But I do think the fact that they've had so many parks, I mean, Six Flags had a massive sell-off, and I want to say it was like 2005, 2006, around there, where they sold off like 30 parks to I think it was Premier Parks is the company name. And so Six Flags, I mean, at one point they were everywhere, and they might not be everywhere anymore as much so as they were, but I mean, it's still a very recognizable name. And I would say most when you say like, hey, name an amusement park, not talking about a theme park, I almost everyone's going to name Six Flags. I don't think Cedar Fair has that same recognition, but for us theme fans, I mean, Cedar Fair is, in my opinion at least, I won't speak for you guys, but Cedar Fair is a much more reputable company in terms of like brand quality.
I agree.
Yeah. Much cleaner. Their parks are just so clean. Incredible. Six Flags also, keep in mind, is building a brand new park, or at least licensing their name to it, which will have the world's fastest and tallest roller coaster, Six Flags Cedar, under construction.
In Dubai, right?
In Cedar, which is
in Cedar. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Which is a very ambitious
Falcons
project.
Flight in IAPA. In a couple of weeks, we'll be having a first look at the train for that, which is super cool. Yeah. But that insane coaster is halfway done, which is crazy.
But that's the problem, is that's all Six Flags goes for, and coasters are great. I mean, that's what brings people in, right? Like it's like a horror movie. The scares are what bring people in. The coasters are what bring people in. But that's not what keeps people coming back, at least from my perspective. That's not people walk through and go, okay, I'm done. I've done the coasters. I'm good to go. I won't come back. Whereas the reason Disney and Universal are so popular is because it keeps people coming back.
Right. And part of that is through IP integration, which Wizard, I know this is a hot topic here. And by the way,
look, I have rebuttals with this, Dr. Dre.
As part of their presentation.
IP. Yeah, that's nice. The DC and stuff. But think about it. Cedar Fair. Yeah, I think it was even quoted that they are like for generic IP, like ghost towns and stuff, right? Now, with their impressive theming quality of Knott's Berry Farm, they still have a higher attendance by 1 million people, and there's much smaller, like 45, 50 acres, where Magic Mountain has the DC Universe and 20 coasters, and they have 1 million fewer people per year and 262 acres. I'm telling you, they don't need it's not all about the IP.
Well, Magic Mountain's no longer a 365 operation like Knott's Berry Farm, so that could account for the numbers a little bit.
No, but those numbers were when they were in 2019 a 365.
2019. Okay, yeah.
I don't know if they are now. They're less now, but that was in 2019. Knott's Berry Farm had 4 million people for the year, and Six Flags had 3 million. And it's just so much smaller. But see, they have a big IP, right? I'm telling you, they don't need that, DC. If I was, as I told Dr. Dre on the phone, I sound like OG now on the phone, but the Universal should, Brian Roberts should call up Mr. Zimmerman and use that $8 billion that Disney's about to give him and just buy those DC theme park rights from them, and it'll be super easy to de-theme all the DC Universe land.
Ranking, what do you got?
I'm not sure I'm on board with that. I understand the point, Ethan, and I think it's true that IP in the past hasn't been super critical for Six Flags, but but it is for Cedar Fair. I mean, not fully. Obviously, Cedar Fair isn't at the IP level that Disney or Universal is, but I think that's the future. To be honest, I do. I know that amusement parks and theme parks are very different arguments. I get that, but I think that you can only get so big with coasters, and I think the success that Disney has had with families. I think Universal is realizing that, and I think other parks are going to start realizing how important it is to get that family in there, that family crowd. Having Peanuts is so massive for Knott's Berry Farm. I understand Knott's Berry.
That's a great IP.
But Peanuts is an amazing IP, and that brings people in. I'm not saying every Six Flags or Cedar Fair park needs that crazy good IP, but I think it can really boost the park. And if you go the opposite direction and you start selling off a pretty important IP, I mean, DC is up there. I know the DCEU has taken a hit lately, but that IP in terms of brand awareness is up there in America.
But do you think they'll eventually get so cash poor that they must take the cash for the IP in a desperation attempt?
I mean, before the merger with Cedar Fair, I would say probably yeah. This seems like, I mean, if you're Six Flags and you're going forward with this, and you're merging with what was before either the third or fourth biggest amusement park company in America, you being the other third or fourth, you're going all in. I don't think you're worried about how cash strapped you're going to be. I think you're trying to go all in, and if you're going all in and you can corner the market on DC, Looney Tunes, and Peanuts, I mean, that's outside of what Disney and Universal has. That's huge. I know Looney Tunes aren't what they were, and even Peanuts to an extent aren't what they were, but those two have a really big hold in American IP brand awareness. So I
would go with my second idea then, where if I were Brian Roberts, who has a good relationship with Warner Brothers, clearly with Horror Nights and Harry Potter, I would go and convince David Zaslav to go ahead and just dramatically raise the licensing fee to where they just couldn't afford it and they have to give it up. I
don't know. We'll have to look into the bylaws on that one. But.
Whenever it's up for renewal, all about. Bob Iger's pretty good at the chess game. I know Roberts. He's gonna get him. It's my mission.
If Bob Iger can pull off a trade for Oswald the Lucky Rabbit for Al Michaels for a sports broadcaster, we can make any of these trades happen.
And especially when we'll talk about it in our next story here, but especially when Comcast is going to get a huge infusion of cash from the Mouse House.
Yes, they are.
These things become distinct possibilities here. They're definitely in the acquisition game when it comes to licensing, when it comes to these different brands and IPs, and we know that Comcast can translate those effectively. But I think Cedar Fair is going to take their shot, right? Mm-hmm. I think they're looking to incorporate these distinct IPs as part of this investor presentation into their existing parks right now. They're going to go forward with it. Interestingly, we talk about the differences between these two businesses. It's fascinating because it says right here, leverage Cedar Fair's recent park investments experience to accelerate Six Flags' portfolio transformation. What's interesting about that is they see Six Flags as the one that's going to be getting some investment here and getting up to speed and being brought up here. I'm pretty firm that they're going to leverage that IP going forward here. They even talk about it in number 2 of this presentation. My question to you guys is, though, there's a couple of questions. One is, what happens to the parks that are geographically kind of close to each other? So, for example, right, Knott's Berry Farm is not that far away from Valencia, California, where Six Flags Magic Mountain is currently, right? You can see it on this map here. My question to you is, do they keep these things open and operating, or is this a chance to kind of look at the line and go, maybe we don't necessarily need this park, if they're going to be in such close proximity? Ranking, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a really intriguing question, and there's been a lot of discourse on this on social media. I personally don't think it's going to matter. I don't think it's going to affect them that much. I mean, for us West Coasters, right, Dre, you're in Arizona, I'm in Seattle, Ethan's in California. For us, Valencia to Buena Park seems like, super close, but when you start getting on the East Coast and so many of these parks are a couple hour drive away already, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I think especially when it comes to California, Six Flags and Knott's Berry serve such a different audience. I know Knott's Berry's been getting into the coaster game lately, especially after their Cedar Fair acquisition, whatever that was, 20, 30 years ago, 30, 40 years ago. But I still think they serve a widely different audience. I mean, for the viewers who haven't been to Knott's Berry Farm, I mean, it is on par with Disney, Universal, Dollywood, Silver Dollar City. I mean, not to the extent that Disney and Universal are, but in terms of theming and history, I mean, it's right there with Dollywood. It's right there with, Universal Hollywood in terms of history and in terms of theme. I mean, it's just incredible. And so I think that Six Flags is not going for that market. I mean, I don't want to hate on Six Flags too much because I know I'm not the direct audience, but you wouldn't mistake Six Flags for a theme park. I'll say that. No one is. And Knott's Berry is very much a theme park. I mean, they're a theme park at their core.
Salim Basul would argue with you, but it's interesting. No, I think you're right. You and I was just talking about this with Casual earlier. You could have a distinct realm here where, hey, maybe Knott's kind of leans more into the family-friendly thing and gets kind of away from those bigger coasters, right? That take up a lot of land. We know that they don't have a lot of land to give and so forth. Whereas you could brand the park next door, Magic Mountain, as the coaster park, right? That's the one you get the giga coasters, the hyper coasters, all those kind of things right there. Brilliant. Go for the teens, tweens, adults, that kind of thing, and then keep the family branding with the more entertainment options and so forth with Knott's Berry Farm. So it's like you could have two distinct products even if they're next to each other.
I think that's brilliant, Jay, because go ahead, Ethan.
Oh, no, yeah, I was saying, and for both of you here, so because I was thinking about, how do you think the operations, or it really would work, what like the passes and the tickets, right? What Six Flags memberships, can I use that at Knott's? Can I use how do you think do you think you're going to keep it separate as it is? And like for haunt events, you have Knott's Fright Fest, which has got some IP for their horror nights or type of thing. Then they have Knott's Scary Farm,
Yeah.
So they're competing for each other, but what are they going to do now? Is it going to be are they going to cancel the Six Flags one and just have Knott's Scary Farm and do Fright Fest where other like Fright Fest and Six Flags locations where they're not Cedar Fair parks close by to not cap? Like, how do you think that's going to work?
Yeah, that's interesting. And as for the haunts, I'm not sure. That's a whole nother debate. But outside of the haunt events, I honestly think we have a very current example of how this is going to work, and it's right over there in Florida. You have Busch Gardens Tampa and SeaWorld Orlando. Those are a couple hours away, 2.5 hours max away from each other, and they work great. They're different branded parks. It's similar to how I don't think Six Flags. Do
you get like for that one? Can you use like if you have a SeaWorld pass, can it go into Busch Gardens, or is it a separate?
So you can. I'm not 100% well versed on this, but I'm about 99% confident they do have some separate passes that are just for SeaWorld. But your main passes, I want to say like the highest 2 or 3 tiers. It might even be more than that. So kind of like good for all of them. They're good for the 3 SeaWorlds, San Antonio, San Diego, and Orlando, and then the Lego.
Kind of like what it is now.
Yeah, similar to what it is now.
By the way, I quickly want to reference a Twitter poll that someone did. I thought it was hilarious. They said, how much would you guys pay for a pass? Like all 42 parks. And most of the people were voting $250 or less. I thought it was hilarious.
No.
I saw that too. And
considering the Six Flags one's $350 now.
Yeah, I think Cedar Fair is $350 now.
And my problem with that is kind of the bigger problem with Six Flags, I think, right now. When you go after the I don't want to step on any toes here, so I'm trying to be kind.
The Walmart
go after no. When you go after the younger crowd, when you're going after a teenage or like very young adult audience, and guys, I am a young adult. I just had a baby. We're broke as heck. I get it. But like that young adult, teenage crowd, they don't have dispensable incomes the way that families or older generations do. So yeah, they're asking, 19-year-olds how much you're going to pay for a pass. The 19-year-olds making $16 an hour. They can't pay more than $50. And that's the problem with Six Flags. Knott's Berry is able to have, I know they're with a Cedar Fair pass, but they're able to charge a little bit more because they're going after that family crowd, that family audience. And that's why Disney and Universal can charge what they do outside of, obviously being so thematically rich, but they're going after a different audience. And when you go after an audience with a more dispensable income, obviously Six Flags is not, and Cedar Fair not charging $250 for a 40+ park pass.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Shouldn't happen. But when you pull teenagers, that's what they're going to say, and so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually a great video on this. Modern NBA, if you look them up on YouTube, has a great video going into like Six Flags and their history and their history from their financials. To your point, Shaun, the kind of clientele that they've attracted over the years, and it is. I would say it is a clientele that is lacking in some discretionary income. So it's you do have to kind of price and brand those, I think, differently, separately from some Cedar Fair parks like Cedar Point, for example, or Knott's Berry Farm, right? Those are, a little bit higher caliber, especially Knott's Berry Farm, where it has so many robust entertainment options, right? Those things cost money, and I think people understand the price differentiation there. But it's going to be interesting to see if, there have been some press releases and so forth suggesting that there is going to be like a annual pass option that includes all 42 parks. And how does that even work? What's the pricing with that on?
Yeah.
Are we talking $400? Are we talking $500? Is anybody necessarily going to pay for that? Does anybody necessarily want that? This is profound. I was just asking casual, if you had a annual pass option that included Magic Mountain and Knott's Berry Farm, would you actually go and do it? And he was a little bit undecided.
Yeah,
and that's interesting. Oh no, I'd say I would do, instead of like all 42 parks, since Six Flags those people are kind of, it's a regional park. So maybe I'd do regions, like a regional pass, like something California, Arizona, Arizona has Hurricane Harbor, and then maybe like the Northeast has its own Northeast pass, because that way parks that are easily drivable, like different states, but they can drive to them, and maybe like a regional pass that can still be cheaper and include like decent amount of parks.
Ethan, I really like that, because my answer to Dre's question was going to be along those lines, and I didn't even really think about that. When it comes to a 42 park pass that spans from SoCal and Mexico up to Canada, the clientele that's going after that is not the regional clientele that frequents Six Flags on the weekend. Like the teenagers or the young adults with with not much disposable income, they're not using 42 parks. So if you do that regional thing, and then maybe you have one tier like the Disney Premium Pass used to be, where you can get every one of them, that you can charge more for, because the people going to those parks are either the resort or roller coaster super fans, or the bloggers who have that income and can make those trips. So I really like that idea. Maybe you make a 42+ park pass for a grand, and then you have a more regional one for $400 or whatever it may be. And honestly, it's going back to our convo earlier with that Dre and I are having. Six Flags drops and adds parks like crazy, so it's be completely different in 6 months, let alone 2 years from now. So we'll see. Especially, I don't know. We don't have to get into this if you guys don't want to yet, but at some point we can get into the fact of how much is Six Flags going to sell off after this acquisition. But
definitely
another day.
And not only do they drop parks, they change their passes. Before COVID, there's the Six Flags membership, which I had. After COVID, they changed it to something else and became a legacy membership. Then they just recently changed to something else. Yeah. And I'm still now there's 2 sets of legacy memberships. I'm like, what's going on?
It's crazy, because I was doing the financial history of Six Flags and their operation. Like I said, Modern NBA, definitely check them out. But they, the gentleman on that YouTube channel provides a graph of the average ticket price for a Six Flags park for a span of 10 years. And you can see it only increases over those 10 years $2, which is just whoa, I'm used to the mouse where it's exponential. But they were they were very value orientated in that way, right? Yeah. But then Salim Basul comes in there and says, not on my watch. And that's where we start getting huge fluctuations, like Wizard was saying, about admission entry, perks, right? They're on and off again, all that kind of stuff.
And I'm park presidents, they do passes in parks.
Yeah. I probably have an unpopular opinion when it comes to that, but if Six Flags prices you out, you're probably just not going to an amusement park. You know, like
Yeah.
if Disney prices you out, you can go to
definitely.
Universal. If Universal prices you out, you can go to your local park. If Six Flags is pricing you out, just maybe theme parks aren't for you. And so I've always been of the belief that theme parks and amusement parks are an insane value if you have all day, because you're
Right.
paying $200-$400 for a 4-hour concert. You're paying $200-$400 for a 3.5-hour football game, and you're sitting in one seat. I mean, I know Six Flags isn't known for entertainment, but Cedar Fair, like if you look at Cedar Point in Ohio or Knott's
insane.
Berry Farm, or honestly even Six Flags Magic Mountain or Six Flags Fiesta Texas, some of these more, I guess, fleshed out parks, that's just an insane value for if you're getting a $400 annual pass and you can go twice a month.
Right.
I mean, that is an insane value. So I don't want to step on any toes, and I'm broke too. I don't want to pay more for a pass, but theme parks are, in my
Especially
opinion,
when
they've been
they have
undervalued for a long time.
the monthly
Mhm.
payment plan. You know, it's
Monthly
$4
payment plans,
total,
exactly.
but I mean, like
I-
it's like $20 a month. Like that's
Yeah.
really not-
The way I tell my wife about it, and this is kind of a dumb analogy, but I don't know if any of you guys, I'm sure you guys do, but any viewers have a Spaghetti Factory near them. But Spaghetti Factory
Yes.
used to be like $11 before COVID. Just the most insane deal ever, because you get like a appetizer and a dessert and your meal. And now they're like $19-$20, and everyone's like complains about it. It's still a great deal though. Like,
Yeah,
obviously
like
it went up, 90% or whatever that may be, but like it's still a good deal. And so you kind of can't get mad at Six Flags for raising their price when, to Dre's point he just made, they probably should have done it like 6 years ago. So it's a
Yeah,
tough argument because no one likes price increases. I feel the same way with
Of
Disney
course.
Plus. Nobody likes the price increase on Disney Plus. They should have raised their price like 2 years ago. We just got it later. So I don't know. That's just my opinion on price increases.
and again, these things are still cheaper, like online. Like so, if people are like, but if you go on Six Flags right now, Magic Mountain, it's like less than $100 for the
Yeah.
day. Like,
Which is crazy. Less than $100 a person. You get 20 roller coasters plus the other things they have, plus just like built-in enjoyment. You can't go stay at a Motel 6 for $100.
Yeah.
That's
like-
a bad comparison because you can fit 4 people in a hotel room, but I just $100 for an entire day for 12 hours, and you can, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you can't for Six Flags, but a lot of theme parks you can bring in your own food. Like that's just a crazy deal,
Yeah,
man.
you
You
can
can't bring in
bring
your
in
own food to a sporting event or a concert.
That's very true.
But
Very
even,
true.
even then, with Knott's and Six Flags, you can get the dining plan.
The
you know?
dining
The
plans.
dining plan at Knott's, if you live near Knott's Berry Farm, that is
Oh
free
my
food.
god.
You are stealing money if you just go once a week. And
They'll
use
give
the
you
dining
to-go
plan.
boxes.
They will.
It's
they'll hand you
wild.
food. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Knott's
I
food
mean-
plan, if you live close by, is free money.
No, it is the best investment you can possibly make, even if you're not a theme park fan. Just for
Yeah.
the food.
And
There's
Knott's-
not a buffet
Knott's
in
is
town
notorious
that would
for their
do that.
food. Yeah, amen,
Right.
Dre. Amen.
And
Six
Knott's
Flags
gives
is not
you
notorious for their food, but Knott's is.
large portions too.
Yeah.
It's like great.
Oh yeah, not Mrs. Knott's Kitchen at Knott's Berry Farm.
Mm.
It's like $19 and it'll feed like 3 people. And it's an insane deal, and it's some greatest food ever.
It is something. We'll see how this whole merger here maybe reevaluate some of those things. I know they're already talking about a $200 million improvement in their business just from the administrative costs and so forth, the managerial costs that they'll be kind of Xing out of this. Also, too, I'm hoping that Matt we met a guy has his roots with Disney. He was known for kind of shepherding the Disney Cruise Line for a while, then became the park president for Disneyland in the lead up to the 50th anniversary, and then was retired from there, was hired on to Cedar Fair to run that operation as the CEO for quite some time. I believe he's still a board member with Cedar Fair. I'm hoping that he makes one of those 6 seats that they get, but we will see. The other question here, though, a lot of people are talking about the leverage that a corporation of this size will have here in terms of investments in the park, like whether it's like buying cups or straws or whatever, but also like buying whole attractions. We know that Cedar Fair hasn't purchased an attraction from Intamin since Intimidator 305 back in 2010 at King's Dominion. That was for around $25 million back then, and after that deal went south, it was like no more with Intamin for Cedar Fair. But now that Six Flags and Cedar Fair are combined, does this mean Intamin just doesn't have 22 parks to necessarily sell product to now? I mean, what happens there?
Hey, luckily their partnership with Universal is the best it's ever been. So
That's
I think
true.
Yeah, that's right.
That
And
is
Universal
true.
is probably paying a lot more than $25 million for those things.
Yeah.
A lot more. But that's a big North American client right there that
For
might
sure,
just
yeah.
be, off the table right here.
Yeah.
But Cedar Fair, they've been pretty stern. No more intimate attractions. We
Yeah,
will
it's
have to
interesting.
s-
And I
Go
really
ahead.
like the convo. And Dre, you even touched on this earlier at the start of the call. I really like the convo or the question of what will it mean for Six Flags when they say we're going to invest more? Because Six
Right.
Flags is investing in new coasters at 80% of their parks. I mean, that's what draws fans in. If you go look at a comment section on whatever social media you want about Six Flags, it's, hey, where's the next coaster going? And that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
And Cedar Fair, I mean, yeah, that's their model, but that's not like fully their model. Like they have a lot else that they lean into. So
Right.
I don't fully get the like, hey, where's the next coaster? That's where I'm going. I mean, new coasters are amazing, and I get coaster junkies love that, but there's so much more to a theme park. I mean, you just look at Knott's Berry Farm, you even look at Cedar Point, or
Yeah.
you even look at like the original Six Flags over Texas and over Georgia. Like they had like quality dark rides and quality entertainment, and that's
Right.
just not really Six Flags anymore. So I'm hoping, and not necessarily that we're going to get more dark rides, but I'm hoping we get more family rides, more entertainment, better theming.
Right. Six
Yeah,
Flags used
I
to
hope
have
so.
entertainment options, right? Magic Mountain used to have like a whole show that they used to
Yeah.
do based
And
around
they
Batman
still
characters.
have 2 theaters empty sitting there.
Yeah, sitting
Right.
empty.
Can we
Such a
get
bummer.
those filled up? Can we get some entertainment back in there? Can we make these
And
a draw
also,
for
The
Okay.
the Justice League ride. I don't know if you guys seen a video, but
Mhm.
or been on it. But hey, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good shooting dark ride there.
Yeah.
I'd say
Yeah.
even better than Web Slingers. I mean, a lot of animatronics in their screens, but there's the Joker animatronic, Harley Quinn. And
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah.
good. It's pretty decent. And when they operate it correctly, it runs beautifully.
I mean, dark rides are a huge part of Six Flags history. When you look at their original parks, I mean, that's what
Right.
they put the money into. They hired old Disney Imagineers. They took notes from Disney and put money and thought into these dark rides.
Right.
So to see it not be not important, but to be a complete non-factor. And when I say
Yeah.
dark rides, I'm tying in like theming and like non-flat ride family rides into that as well. To just see it be a non-factor for, I mean, more than a decade now, it just bums me out. But I know that's dark rides aren't bringing in the fans that coasters are, so I get it. But they're also
But
way
they
cheaper,
could bring in the families that spend more
right?
money.
The
And
families.
that's the untapped potential for Six Flags and Cedar Fair here. That is the untapped potential.
I heard a great idea just from this merger that is now possible thanks to these two companies coming together. Casual was just like, hey, look, listen, can we take a ride like Accelerator from Knott's Berry Farm, take it, put it over in Magic Mountain, where that type of ride is, would fit in line with their coasters, and then that spot opens up for maybe a potential dark ride in its own, right? Like
Just so
the
great.
transfer of
Yeah.
assets now that becomes possible with this really unlocks new capabilities and potential.
That's
It's interesting. Because I thought so too. It's interesting because Blue Loop just had a recent article come out. Has Wall Street grown tired of theme parks? They talk about how the quarter 3 results for a lot of these theme park companies, Cedar Fair and Six Flags included, or they're down. There are some economic headwinds coming. Because of a downturn in the economy, that means less discretionary income for theme parking. And so the article goes on to point out that Comcast was really the only ones that actually did really well in the theme park division. And even then, that stock still took a little bit of a dive. This definitely does, I think, for investors, improve the standing, at least as far as Wall Street is concerned, with this kind of combined merger here. You can see the stock price actually go up. It's now plus 11% for Cedar Fair upon the news of this actually going down, and for the past 5 days, plus 24% for Six Flags. So Wall Street really took to this as well as they should. We'll see what actually ultimately happens, because this is a big company right here for sure. But this brings us on to our next story right here. This coming out of the Walt Disney Company themselves. the Walt Disney Company to purchase remaining stake in Hulu from Comcast. We had speculated for a long time, what's going to happen to that 33% stake that Comcast has in Hulu? Bob Chapek was saying, oh, we're going to buy it out, and that's going to be it. And then when Bob Iger was placed in the role, he's like, well, maybe there's a life without Hulu. But now, as we can see here confirmed, and as we have heard, they're going all in on Hulu. This is very interesting because for a number of reasons. One is, as Alex Sherman points out, November 1st is the day Comcast and Disney can trigger their Hulu options to start the sale valuation process. My colleague confirms that that's what's happened. But it says right here in this press release, as Jonas brought out earlier, it says, let's see, I'll find it here. Disney will pay NBC Universal its percentage of the difference between the equity fair value and the guaranteed floor value. So you'll see here they're going to be spending $8.61 billion on this, which if you do the math on 33% of $27.5 billion, it's a little light. So everybody's like, well, what about the difference? And they're saying that the difference will be paid. The thing, though, is that Disney is working with Morgan Chase to find out the valuation for Hulu. Comcast is working with JP Morgan to find out the valuation of Hulu, which there are reports that indicate that maybe it suggests that Comcast views it as maybe like $60 billion or $70 billion. This is kind of interesting here because Disney's just saying, hey, we're guaranteed to pay this much, but they might end up paying a lot more. Guys, what do we think about all this?
What do you think, Ethan?
Let's see. I think we'll have to see how much it really costs. It'd be interesting to see what those third parties think. But as I always suggest, the more money that goes to Comcast, I'm still thinking about those DC theme parks, right?
Oh, Ethan.
This is kind of why we bring it up, right? Because Comcast is about to get about at least an $8 billion windfall starting in
I
2024.
just see him waving the money in front of Zimmerman's face. There you go.
He lights a cigar with $100 bills.
I think in the short term it's important, but in the long term, and I kind of feel similarly, and Dre, we've had a lot of convos about this, you and I, but I feel the same way with Disney and Fox. Yeah, right now it's a lot, but in 20 years and 15 years, no one's even going to think twice about what they paid. And with inflation, they're going to say Disney only got it for what? I mean, you look back at any major acquisition, Disney and Pixar, anything, any real merger, it's always like, just seems so tiny with how quick inflation goes. And so,
yeah,
I mean, it's a big deal now and it's important now, but I mean, these companies aren't going under anytime soon. And so if they don't go under in 10 years and 15 years, these numbers aren't going to mean a whole lot with inflation and all that. So
I guess I suppose that's true. The average revenue per user for our viewers at home for Hulu, or the ARPU, is the envy of the streaming world. Hulu rakes in a bunch of cash, and although not profitable yet, it's like you can see where profitability lies. Bob Iger has said that they want a general content portfolio or a streaming platform under their belt. They might look at integrating both Disney Plus and Hulu at a certain point when this deal is actually done here. So, even at $8 billion, I do agree with you, Ranking. It's like that's a very fair valuation. They'll probably be paying more though. We'll have to see if they can't come to an agreement about how much this is actually worth between these two investment firms. A third investment bank will be introduced, and hopefully they'll settle things. If not, maybe even arbitration. So this is kind of the first steps here, getting to a point where Disney owns Hulu outright. But because Comcast is about to get $8 billion at least, which, by the way, folks, to put that in perspective, we just talked about a company merging and creating an $8 billion valuation here. Yeah. $8 billion, okay. That scene, The Dark Knight, with a Joker, he's on that pile of cash right there? People have done the math, and that's like $4 billion. Two big piles of cash right there. That's how much we're talking about right here. Yeah. Comcast could definitely put that to use. That is for sure. Do they use it? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that this price point and the complicated situation explains why Disney hasn't bought Hulu outright years ago. People have said, okay, you own 66%. I don't know when that was, 2017, 2018, around there when they bought the other 33%. Why don't you just buy it outright? Well, this explains it's not as simple as just buying it outright. This is a complicated scenario.
It is, and there's also content that lives between both companies on that platform, right? So it's like, you have to figure that out as well. This is a very it's a changing situation for sure. We'll have to see how this is ultimately resolved. But for the theme park realm, and which is why we bring this up, this has great implications, right? This $8 billion has to come from somewhere from Disney's side. And from Comcast's side, looking at the double-digit increases that they've had quarter after quarter after quarter in their theme park segment, you have to assume that some of this is going to go to that use.
Hey, send it to Intamin. Come on, Universal.
Exactly, right? Intamin they need it. Their client just got bought out. Come on, we need a little bit of we need some more Velocicoaster type attractions. Right?
No, it's interesting because Comcast has been going all in the last 5-10 years or so, maybe 15 years, in terms of putting their money where their mouth is with the theme park. So I love it because maybe, and this kind of circles back to our original topic, maybe the Cedar Fair Six Flags merger isn't the best for customers, but the more players in this game, the better. And so if Six Flags and Cedar Fair are going to be, pushing Disney and Universal in the amusement sphere, and Universal's pushing Disney, it's just a win for all of us. So
I agree. And if like you said, if Universal's pushing Disney, hey, if Disney pushes Universal, whenever that might be, that's also great for us, right? But we're getting a brand new park in the form of Epic Universe, right? Which we know is plus $5 billion or something like that. To get $8 billion, and we know there's enough land near that Epic Universe site to even build a new theme park. This is really good news. This is awesome, and hopefully Disney joins the party with something. But we'll see here.
I think you should just send this article about the $8 billion that Comcast is getting. Just slip it under the door of that golf course down by Universal Hollywood.
That's another place to wave the money to. Or that's another good spot to wave the money to.
Right? So Ethan, maybe you can clear this up.
If Six Flags Magic Mountain continues to underperform over and over and over again, then go back to Zimmerman. Hey, I'll buy that park off. Let me get
as great as those coasters are. I don't think Valencia is the highest priority for the theme park company. So I don't know. There's been some talk about that on social media. Outside of the coasters, and the brand, I don't think Valencia is high on people's priority list there.
It isn't, but that's why if Universal were to level every single one of those coasters and then use that 262 acres plus the parking lot, and they built their own hotels, people would obviously stay there and not pop into the. And it's better than Lancaster, which is like the only other big spot out there.
The thing is
so ugly.
Exactly.
I don't disagree with you. But look, you have an area that's zoned for amusement use, right? And amusement development. It's by a metropolitan area. It's already a good segment of land that is already set aside for that usage. You could see where executives might get the inclination to actually buy up that plot of land right there, develop it for theme park use. The thing, though, is I think I agree with you, Shaun. It's just, I don't think it's necessarily a hot item, even for a constricted theme park company like Universal is in Southern California market, right? It's like, doesn't really make sense. I don't really know if it does. Definitely there are some assets that you can pull out of there if Magic Mountain or Six Flags, or now Cedar Fair Six Flags, wants to go ahead and reuse those throughout their portfolio. But I don't know. I think it's Magic Mountain. And if it's not Magic Mountain, then it's going to be probably some housing development.
Yeah, 100% agree, Dre. I 100% agree. It's Magic Mountain or some housing developments. And if Magic Mountain ever does shut down, which I would have said a couple years ago, that this is just dumb talk, but they already left their 365 day a year operating schedule behind. So that's usually not a great sign. But if anything did happen to Magic Mountain, they're just going to take those coasters and plus up every other park. It's not going to be a lost cause. They're not just closing down and being like crap. And I think this merger means Six Flags is ready for business. So I think they're gonna push their chips all into Magic Mountain and their flagship parks, because Magic Mountain is, if you're talking about flagship Six Flags parks, it's top 3. There's an argument it could be number 1. So
It's
For
I'll
Six
say
Flags, I
this.
mean, not including Cedar Fair.
Right. I think this new merger has bought Magic Mountain at least 10 years. If it was
Right.
in one of those areas where it's like, who knows? But
Yeah.
I think Cedar Fair would have some incentive to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you have the park in NorCal that,
Mhm.
they have an expiration date, right? They've announced they'll be closing by, what is it, 2032 or something like that?
Yep,
Something like that, yeah.
2033 or something
So,
like
I mean,
that.
you're already losing a big player. I know that's NorCal and that's far away, but you're losing one of the major 7 or 8 parks in California in 5 or 6 years here. So,
Right. You are right. I mean, these things. Look, there is a reason why nobody's opened up an amusement park of scale for what 40 years or something like that. Like it's been a while. From
that's crazy.
construction and building. It's just yeah. I mean, these things don't last forever sometimes, and sometimes geographic conditions change, population and visitation patterns change, and well, you got to close up shop. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We
it's
will
a little
see.
off topic, but just with that closing park, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist here, but
Mhm.
didn't Cedar Fair sell that park like only like a year and a half ago? Do you think they had any inclination that shoot, we might merge one day with Six Flags and we should get out of their territory, I guess? Because for all I knew, that park, I want to say is it America or Great America?
Yeah,
Great America.
yeah,
That was a pretty popular park.
It is interesting to say that. I mean, apparently there was an attempt to have these companies merge back in 2018. And then SeaWorld attempted to purchase Cedar Fair back a year ago. So it's
such a better purchase. I don't want to get caught up in the past, but I would have loved SeaWorld and Cedar Fair to merge. That would have been so good.
Yeah. And sometimes those things.
SeaWorld, ironically enough, SeaWorld's kind of been going the opposite direction lately, though. They're building great coasters, but their theming,
yeah,
they hit a peak
theming's
with
no
great
good.
theming from like the late 1990s to like the early 2010s. In the last like decade, they've been slacking on their theming. I'm a little disappointed
I
in
agree.
that. So
Yeah, very disappointing, especially with Emperor. It's like there's no
Oh,
theme.
bro.
They really even have a station in Emperor.
Oh, so bad. I rode that back when we all 3 of us hung out in person. What was that, July? We were hanging out at Disneyland. I went to SeaWorld the day before that and just sitting there in the sun and Emperor, like, what is going on? Why you don't even have a loading station, let alone. And SeaWorld has good theme. Like, it's a legitimate, impressive thematic theme park. I mean, Manta. I'm talking about SeaWorld San Diego here for the viewers. Manta
Right.
and Journey to Atlantis and I'm
agree.
gonna forget the name, but the water ride, like, really impressive theming. So it's a bummer.
It's weird. They just put in what is it? The surfing coaster in SeaWorld Orlando.
Pipeline.
Pipeline, which almost has no theming, and then we're getting this Antarctic themed coaster, right? And it has a lot of theming to it. So they're bouncing back and forth. Don't quite know where the identity is with that brand, but I don't know. We'll see. They have.
Hey, it's going to be interesting because they as of now they are 5th in the pecking order in North America. You can make an argument they're 6th behind Herschend, which own. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but they own Silver Dollar City and Dollywood. So in SeaWorld, I mean, they are guaranteed behind Six Flags Cedar Fair now. I mean, there's no argument. And so they got to, they really got to do something. Obviously, they have Busch Gardens Williamsburg, which if you viewers don't know much about Busch Gardens Williamsburg, that is a beautiful theme park. I mean, outside of Disney Universal, that might be one of the most like beautiful theme parks. Then you have Busch Gardens Tampa, which also owned by SeaWorld, another great park, really beautiful. And then you have the 3 SeaWorld parks. So SeaWorld's right there, but yeah, they're behind now. They're behind Cedar Fair, Six Flags for sure.
I agree. They're definitely behind. Are we going to see more consolidation here? I don't know. We might. They might get to a point where it's like, do we take on something like SeaWorld as well to this whole thing? At that point, I think government regulators.
I was going to say, is that passing regulation?
Yeah.
Hey,
we're going to
what are our thoughts on Merlin Entertainment? Because Merlin, for those who don't know, is a massive player in the European theme park game. And I'm pretty sure the only parks they own domestically is Legoland. I might be missing some, but I think they only own Legoland in the United States, which, for what it's worth, those are solid theme parks too, especially for the families, younger kids, and they have some good hotels. So
It's why Universal's getting into the regional theme park game with their Texas theme park right there. It's like, hey, we want to diversify our portfolio. Legoland is killing in the markets that it's set up. Can we do something similarly in Texas between our two flagship resorts? Hey, I like the business model. I really do enjoy it, but it's getting, it's very, very competitive, and how many dollars do we have going around here as economic times, they get a little rocky right here.
Yeah.
We're just going to
I agree short term with that, especially now, going back to the article you read earlier, we are seeing right now the opposite, the ending of revenge travel, whereas 2021 and especially 2022, I'd say probably 80-90% of 2022, we saw this massive wave of revenge travel. But the problem with that is,
Sorry.
I meant to do something.
Go ahead.
if you want me to leave, bro, I can leave. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Shaun. I think you were doing it.
Okay, well, until Ethan interrupts me again, I'll keep going and kicks me out. When you hit that wave of revenge travel, which saw Disney, Universal, Six Flags, even hotels and national parks. Sorry. You saw these hit crazy waves where they were maxing out. National parks were turning people away. Disney was hitting reservation capacities. Well, that wave has to capsize and come back down. So and you obviously have the potential recession looming, anytime. So short term, it's a worry. Long term, I mean, maybe we're biased, or I'm biased as a theme park fan, but I think theme parks and amusement parks are such a staple of American history. And you look back at like even the 1900s and the late 1800s. Just how important like boardwalks were to society. I don't think they're going anywhere long term, but it's definitely potential concern the next 3-4 years, 5 years maybe.
And this I think it ensures that for the short term, these two companies with huge, gigantic portfolios will, make it past this point right here. So, all good things.
Absolutely.
But,
I mean, you look at their portfolio now, and I don't know if you guys want to get in this at all or not, but the new Cedar Fair Six Flags portfolio is crazy. Crazy how many solid parks they have. It's really wild to think a company could have. I mean, even if you take out the water parks, 20 plus, 25, 30, solid, impressive amusement theme parks. It's pretty crazy.
That's insane. That's so crazy. And think about it. I mean, that $200 million in operational expense that they're going to be getting from this consolidation right here. That's going to be really, really valuable when it comes to the management of all these parks. Yeah. It's going to be huge, and hopefully that opens CapEx for more investment. Absolutely,
and other small things that people don't even think about to that point of like, now you only have one headquarters. You're not spending rent and utilities and. Not that I don't want to see layoffs, and I'm not saying there will be layoffs, but when you start consolidating, it's crazy the amount of money you start saving. You're not paying rent on a building, you're not paying, double the insurance on two separate companies, all this stuff.
Also, too, Cedar Fair, a lot of their parks being that where they're placed, they're a much more seasonal operation. Like a lot of their parks have to go down in the winter, whereas Six Flags, they have a lot of stuff in the south that doesn't necessarily need to do that. That also creates its own operational opportunities.
It's a really good point, Dre. Yeah, so much of Cedar Fair's heavy hitters outside of Knott's are in the Northeast. And yeah, you're right. So many of them, a good majority of them are seasonal. And Six Flags is kind of the opposite. They kind of had the southern, kind of the whole South, Texas, multiple Texas
Georgia.
Parks, multiple Georgia. All that. Yep. So they really have, and you have the Six Flags Mexico Park, which I've never been to, but I'm not even a big Six Flags fan, and Six Flags Mexico is high up on my list. I heard it's a beautiful park. So
I've heard very good things for sure.
Yeah. So
now, Cedar Fair, when it's with its previous 11 parks, was used to a smaller amount of parks with its annual budget. So I'm curious. And Six Flags is used to adding new things to a lot of parks every single year. So I wonder how they'll go about that with the investment into which parks they choose to do, because like I said, Cedar Fair will do something every few years. So this park, Six Flags will just add everything to. I wonder which one will win out, and which parks they do, and that kind of gets to your point, Shaun. Which parks should they maybe sell, right? Because if there's just so many, like Six Flags Darien Lake in New York, I know that's not really, or LeBron is not really in Canada, is not really popular, so maybe they sell those off, because which I guess point of thought will win out in terms of new investment.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's
really
interesting. I heard. I don't know much about it, and I've never been there, but I heard Laurent is like one of Six Flags. It's on the lower totem of most people's rankings. I want to go there so I can rank it, but
Shaun,
yeah,
it's so bad. It's so bad, Shaun, that they got our Green Lantern. Okay,
Oh, it's one of the worst. One of the worst theme parks.
that was their new ride for last year. The Our Green Lantern painted yellow.
Yeah, so they can get rid of Laurent. And if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong on this, but I don't think that Six Flags actually outright owns Darien Lake. Don't they? Aren't they just the operator for that park?
It's like a shared something.
Yeah.
With the light. Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, Dre brought this up at the start of the call, and I don't know if we really came to an answer, but maybe they will sell some parks. When you say, Ethan, like what mindset are they going to take? My mind only can go to the optimistic of like, man, if Cedar Fair, Six Flags just put like $300 million into these parks and just made them elite parks, like how incredible they could all be. Like if you just somehow made Magic Mountain like with actual $300
million, like would you like? I think this is how I would do it, because at $300 million, that's well, I think Cedar Fair last year spent $200 million on their investments, so $300 million with all their new parks. I think that I do like a wave of parks, right? Just like each year choose maybe 5 or 6 and really spend that, like I said, $300 million to put some quality dark rides or whatever they do, just make it like quality. And then the next year do another 5 or whatever, and just to not like spend $300 million over 22, because then each park gets like a carousel, and then you're like, oh, that's there.
I changed my number. I didn't know that Cedar Fair spent $200 million all of last year. I changed my number to $900 million. Okay, come on, Cedar Fair.
That's a good one.
I know that you like your teenagers riding the new roller coasters, but you can be a true player in the family theme park game alongside Universal and just below Disney if you just invest thematically and with entertainment into your parks. And I know everything I'm saying is completely wishful thinking, and there's almost no chance it happens, but it's all that my brain can go to.
It's not too wishful, right? Because one of Salim Basul's goals, where he said he wants to bring the families in. So, it's not, again, like I was telling Dre, maybe he goes to the Cedar Fair. Maybe he should know how to do that. So the Cedar Fair people who know how to do that, maybe we can teach him. And maybe it's not so wishful. Maybe it's more plausible than you think.
In this investor presentation, they talk about in the short term turning these Six Flags parks around. They don't necessarily talk about the Cedar Fair parks. They talk about the Six Flags parks, because I think they recognize there's a distinct opportunity there, especially when you have this cross-pollination, IP integration with the Peanuts characters and so forth. You can do a lot of stuff there.
I love to hear that. Dre, I'm curious, if you don't know the answer to this, that's fine, but do you know the history of Zimmerman and the current board at Cedar Fair? Because I trust their history, but if their board is new, are we really getting like Cedar Fair history? Just because there's usually such turnover with these higher front office positions.
Usually, yeah. I can tell you right now, there's been more stability in the C-suite executive leadership at Cedar Fair than there has been at Six Flags. Six Flags, it's been a little bit of a rotation there. And they've been in the
news for not the best reasons, for sure. Yeah.
Exactly, right?
You almost wonder if that's such a good thing for Cedar Fair. They really aren't in the news that much, and you almost wonder if this is one of those scenarios where it's a good thing. Stay out of the news, stay out of the limelight.
It could be, yeah, it could be. I don't know much about Zimmerman himself, but I know he took over from Matt Ouimet, and from what I understand, Matt Ouimet gave him, full approval. Which for me, coming from the Disney perspective, knowing his history there, knowing his work there, and understanding what he brought to the Cedar Fair over all those years, that's a ringing endorsement in my view. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, you got that executive chairman position where Salim Basul's at. I mean, if it were me, I'd be like, okay, well, see ya. But they want him to be part of this whole thing.
Yeah,
we'll see. That's kind of a.
We'll see how long he lasts.
And there's going to be 12 board members, right?
Yes, 12 board members, 6
and one of them is going to the Six Flags CEO. So we have 11 spots that we're not 100% confident are where we're at with those.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
crazy what some investment. I mean, I know they're investing in their parks, but it's crazy what giga coaster investment can do to a theme park. A show, a covered parking lot, like dumb little things like that you'd think would be obvious, but parks like Magic Mountain just can't get down. Simple things like that can really change a park. So
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit, Wizard. Talk about Magic Mountain and their kind of woes, right? How long was Riddler's Revenge closed for because they couldn't get a part in, and it was either this one or Scream. They went for Scream, and it's just been chaos there in terms of how those things are run.
the opening of Wonder Woman was that this year, Ethan?
Last year.
Or last year? Oh, and they just had no shade for a brand new ride in the middle of the desert.
Not only that, okay, all us media people were hiding under a tree because there was no shade. But they demolished the bathrooms, the Flash bathrooms, one of the cleanest in the park, for a canceled bar and restaurant, and it's still under construction walls today. Like, that's the type of stuff that's ridiculous.
I feel so bad beating down Six Flags door, but if you guys go to Magic Mountain, I'm sure a lot of our viewers disagree because they're just coaster fans. And if you're just a coaster fan, it's a perfect park. But anything outside of
I see people online saying, "Oh, why are you complaining?" I'm like, "What do you mean?"
You turn a corner. Yeah.
You
turn a corner and it's dirty. It's just like
literally. I mean, how could you demolish one of your nicest looking bathrooms? And at least if you cancel the budget cut the bar, that's cool. But at least build the bathrooms back. Don't just put it back on the wall. Like, come on.
Well, the hope was that we're going to reimagine our pricing model so that we get higher clientele in there, right? Not those Walmart visitors or whatever Slim Basul's language was, which was like, whoa. But the hope was okay.
Level. That's Wayfind's McCarthy level.
Exactly. Yeah, it's Wayside McCarthy's level, right? Exactly. But no, it was like, okay, well, the hope is that we'll get higher per caps, right? We'll get higher spend from each guest that's in there, and we'll get less guests overall, so that way we can have some clean restrooms and not overflowing trash cans and all this kind of stuff. Well, those things still persisted, and they have lower per caps with lower attendance. So it was all like very, very downhill very, very quickly over a couple of years, actually. So hopefully you have Cedar Fair that can kind of rectify that. I will say they haven't been pitch perfect either. With the whole Montezuma's issue, right? Like, okay, we're going to cut up an attraction, not necessarily have a game plan for getting it back on. And, it went, more expensive than we thought. And now Accelerator still down, right? So it's like, can we... I think there are examples from both companies that they need to address some things. And hopefully this is a time where they can reevaluate and get those things addressed.
I'm glad you brought that up because Cedar Fair is far from perfect. They're just way less of two evils here. But theme park casual, to his point, brings this up all the time. And I don't fully agree with him, but I fully see his point of like, they really just started throwing coasters in without fully understanding what it did to the park. And I see his point, and that's why I was even a little worried about the Giga Coaster that they were talking about. I think it was going to go over by Ghost Rider, kind of in the parking lot area, if I'm not mistaken. And not that would be bad. That like cool, a new roller coaster, awesome. I love coasters, but is that what Knott's is known for? Like we're throwing in coasters like Hang Time and even Accelerator, which I like that coaster, but like is that really Knott's? Like to your point, Dre, like can we not ship that off somewhere and now to a park that deserves it, or not deserves it, but to a park where it fits better? And just build what Knott's is. Knott's has lots of thrill. Like it's not like they're lacking thrill. They're not a thrill park. That's not what they're known for. And so yeah, you're right that Cedar Fair has not been perfect. But it kind of felt like Cedar Fair realized that. It kind of felt like they realized, oh shit, like sorry, Ethan, I don't know if I can swear on your channel, but
of course, this is After Dark.
Wizard After Dark. But it's kind of like, damn, like it's kind of what they realized. Like, okay, we were kind of pushing, on the gas here without really realizing what the fans want. And Knott's Berry Farm has a massive, massive dedicated fan base. And so does Cedar Point, and so do some of their other parks. So it kind of felt like Cedar Fair realized that. So to Ethan's earlier point, I hope that the Cedar Fair mindset wins out over the Six Flags mindset. We'll see.
I think it will. And like I was saying before, you have an opportunity here where you have two distinct products, right? Even if they sit together or how they've been branded previously, you can have a little bit even more delineation between these two products. So, hey, can we get more family stuff in Knott's Berry Farm and kind of like that's its identity. That's it. It's not trying to compete with the other local amusement park in the area. And whereas Magic Mountain, it's like, okay, we are coasters. That's what we do. That's what our identity is. Let's go from there. I think
Man,
we
that's
can.
awesome. That gets me excited, Drake. Because thinking about that now, like Six Flags and Cedar Fair, they've had to say, well, shoot, we need to compete with Magic Mountain because we're not competing with Disney. Maybe they can say now, hey, we don't need to. Like that's, I really like that. That gives me a lot of maybe it shouldn't, but that gives me a lot of faith in this future company.
I like the idea.
I'm hoping.
Knock on whatever wood you got closest to you there, fellas.
Yeah,
That sounds like a great game plan to me.
Certainly more space for a Giga at Magic Mountain than at Knott's.
Yeah, and that's great because if you're a coaster fan, then awesome. You can go to Six Flags. I don't think Knott's Berry needs a Giga. I don't think they need coasters like Accelerator with no theming. I mean, at the theme park casuals point, he always brings up Silver Bullet, which I actually really like that coaster and think that it has more theme than some other coasters, but they just stuck it in the middle of, a thematically beautiful area. And so that's frustrating. So if you can lean into that and you look at some other parks like Six Flags Over Georgia in their portfolio with some great family rides and classic historical dark rides. So if they can kind of lean into that while letting the coaster parks be the coaster parks, that would be a really good game plan.
Oh, man. Well,
I'm hoping.
For me personally, visiting like a Six Flags Over Georgia or like even like a Dollywood or whatever, stuff that gets me, or like a Hershey Park. Like when I think of Hershey Park, I'm like, I cannot wait to ride the Hershey Park dark ride. Like that's what gets me hyped, and I know I'm not in the majority of that, and I am a roller coaster super fan, but those are the types of things that can bring in new crowds to these parks. Like the Berry Tales, when Knott's Berry and Cedar Fair finally realized that they need to redo that Voyage to the Iron Reef crap, and they put in a quality dark ride, like that brings up the level of the whole park, and now the coasters are brought up because the whole park is fleshed out. So hopefully they can realize that and keep building.
I agree 100%.
Wow. And just like that, we have concluded our episode 6, 7 of the Theme Park Universe podcast. You let us know down below about all our great ideas, DC theme park rides, wink. And then subscribe to Shrinking the Mouse's YouTube channel. He has one. It may not seem like it, but he does have.
I just had a child. I just birthed a child, so the YouTube has taken the back burner for about 6 months, and Twitter has won over. But I mean, you can follow me there, and you can also find me at the parks and hang out with Dre and Ethan at least a couple times a year. We were just kicking it back in July for a couple days, and so find us in the theme parks, find us on social media, wherever.
And you can find Dr. Dre at all over the world, it seems.
Huh? I'm everywhere. That Park Place, that Vash Guy on Twitter. You could definitely find me, or doing something at Theme Park Universe. And for your newborn here, Shaun, well, we gotta give you an applause right there. Some great updates in that area of your life. So just want to go ahead and congratulate you formally here.
Thank you, sir. He will be riding the closest Giga Coaster to us in about 2 years. So,
woo-hoo, yeah, buddy.
I'm just kidding.
Subscribe, peace out, and Merry Christmas.